Fever in the morning, fever all through the night.
Hey, my name is Megan, and I'm an IBCLC, or a lactation consultant with Milk and Honey Lactation and Education. And today for our Milky Monday, I wanted to cover mastitis recommendations. So if you've had a baby before, you probably know the word mastitis and what that might look like. Maybe you've had it before. But maybe what you don't know is that in the last 2 years, so in 2022, the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine actually put out an update to their recommendations of how we look at mastitis, what we think's causing it, and how we treat it. So if you've had a baby in the last 2 years, or it's been longer than 2 years since your last baby, it might be important to know maybe some of these updates and how to treat mastitis if it occurs. So first off, I wanted to mention that there is something called mastitis that we need to treat and work on. And then there's also something called engorgement. And engorgement just simply means that there is milk filling in the breast that's causing a hard spot that's uncomfortable. But if we can get the milk flowing, it resolves and it doesn't cause any other symptoms usually besides just some local filling. Now, what can happen is if it doesn't get relieved, it can turn into what we call mastitis. So mastitis, in the 2022 updates that the ABM, or Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine, put out, started looking at mastitis as an inflammation rather than always infection. So they're looking at mastitis more of a spectrum rather than always needing antibiotics, which is a good thing because the antibiotic course that you have to take if it is infection is pretty long. It gets like 10 days, 4 times a day. So it's a lot of antibiotics for your system. So if we can avoid it, then that's even better. So the mastitis spectrum starts because there's some sort of dysregulation between how much milk is being made and how much milk is being removed. So a lot of times this is maybe your baby slept through the night for the first time and went a longer stretch of time between feedings. Maybe you missed a pumping session that you are used to doing every day. Maybe it's that you stopped doing extra pumping and you're just feeding your baby, or maybe you stopped feeding your baby and you decided to just pump. But usually there's some sort of change or some dysregulation between how much milk your body continues to make and how much milk is being removed. When that inflammation occurs, what happens is the milk ducts in your breast are narrowed or constricted. So that narrowing makes it harder for milk to come out of your breast. So it's not necessarily that milk clogs in your breast. We used to think of milk clogs and that we really needed to work out when we felt a clog. Now we're thinking of it more as narrow ducts. And we want to treat the inflammation that's causing the narrowing. So the basics of this is totally 180 from what it used to be. So if you had a baby more than 2 years ago or are still operating in what you heard 2+ years ago, it used to be that we would think of heat, rest, empty the breast. That was the motto that we used to go off of. And now we're thinking it's actually completely different now that they looked at all the research. And so now we want ice because that's going to help decrease inflammation. We still want moms to rest, but we don't want to try and aim to empty the breast, so to speak. What we actually want to do is breast rest. Just keep it at the status quo. Because we know that if we start trying to empty the breast, we're going to start telling the body to make even more milk, which can cause even more issues with inflammation and swelling and all of that milk production dysregulation, right? So if you need a little acronym to remember it easily, there's one called BAIT. And the B is for breast rest, So we try to keep feeding just at status quo, not extra, just try and keep it where you've been doing whatever you've been doing. A is for Advil or ibuprofen. We know that that helps with inflammation. I is for ice. So you can ice every hour if you need to, 15-20 minutes on at a time, and then give it a break. But you can ice every hour if you really felt like you need to. And then T is for Tylenol or acetaminophen, which can also help with swelling some, but mostly with the discomfort. So some of the symptoms of mastitis is going to be red, hot, painful, streaking, big lump that you're feeling. You may also get some systemic symptoms throughout your body. So you might get a fever, chills, flu-like symptoms, even body aches. And all of those might be present, or some of them, with mastitis. Now, as long as your symptoms are mild, the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine says that we don't need to necessarily jump straight to doing antibiotics. So we can try doing breast rest, ibuprofen, ice, and do all of those things for at least 24 hours. And usually within that time frame, most women's symptoms will improve with those things alone. Now, if your symptoms aren't improving after 24 hours of trying all these things, then you do need to call your OB provider or your primary care provider to help get the treatment, because you might need antibiotics at that point. Or if you feel like your symptoms are worsening despite doing those things. I hope you found that helpful. I know sometimes it takes a while for new recommendations to get out there, and this one's only been out in the last 2 years. And if you need any help, please let us know.
You give me fever when you kiss me, fever when you hold me tight, fever in the morning, fever all through the night. Everybody's got the fever, that is something you all know. Fever isn't such a new thing, fever started long ago.